Today I will tell you about a small feature that you can use when declaring new methods, namely default arguments. Maybe you already came across them, or maybe not. What we usually do when calling a method is that we pass all needed arguments to it. Or we create overloaded versions of a method when we don't want or need to pass certain information to a method. For example, when spawning a character, we could want to pass information about a certain location and rotation for the character to the method. However, it could also be that we want to offer a version of this method for which we don't have to provide these infos and spawn the character at a default location. For such scenarios, we can use default arguments. As the name already suggests, default arguments are arguments that have a default value assigned to them. So, in our case, the f-vector and f-rotator would have default values. Then, if we don't pass the information for these arguments to the method when calling it, the default values would get used. But how do we define a default argument? It is pretty simple. When declaring the method in the header file, we can add a default value for an argument like this. So basically identical to the normal assignment. However, when using default arguments, you have to ensure that those arguments are at the end of the argument list. Therefore, you can't write first a default argument, then a normal argument, and then another default argument. When implementing the method in the source file, you don't have to write the declaration of default arguments again, because this information is being gathered from the header file. Now, when using the method, we can call the method by providing values for every argument when calling it. However, now we can also decide to not pass information for arguments to the method that already have a default value assigned to them. Keep in mind that if you decide to pass information for an argument to the method, you also have to provide a value for every argument that comes before in the argument list. So if you have two default arguments and have to add information for the second one, then you also have to pass information for the first default argument when calling the method. But this is basically everything you need to know for default arguments. They are helpful for reducing the number of overloaded methods and allow a bit more flexibility when calling a method. Like always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Otherwise, see you next time.